Okay, hello everyone. Thank you so much for joining us for today's class. We're going to cover the topic of the IRS 990 EZ form in detail tonight. And so we're very glad to have this hour with you all. I myself, Eleazar Sam, and a few others of us are with Legal Aid of Northwest Texas. Legal Aid is a nonprofit law firm that provides free legal services to individuals in a number of different civil areas like family law, like landlord-tenant law, and public benefits, kind of a range of areas. And the project that myself, Eleazar, and Rosetta are part of, as well as Emily and Marcus are part of, focus is called the Community Revitalization Project. And here we focus on working with neighborhood associations and community groups in different areas such as affordable housing, environmental justice, and community development. And we also have a focus on doing community outreach. So the main organization we're with, Legal Aid, works in 114 counties in North Texas and in West Texas. And then the project, the CRP project, focuses on the Dallas area, Fort Worth area, Amarillo, and Lubbock. So we hope to be able to speak with groups tonight from all of these different communities, these different 4 communities especially, and talk with you about the IRS 990 because it's a very important document. It's a key legal document and one that you need to file as a tax-exempt 501c3 organization in order to maintain your status as a federal tax-exempt 501c3. And the reason we focus on the 990, even if you're able to file the 990N to give your organization to provide more information to the public, including regulators, but others who might be interested. So our focus on the 990 EZ is going to focus on the Part 1, revenue expenses and changes in net assets of fund balances, the first part of the form. Part 2 is the balance sheet, and Part 3 describes your organization's statement of program service accomplishments. So here you're using language to describe per program what your organization's activities are. We're also going to show you an online filing platform, efile.form990, that you could use if you wanted to prepare your 990 EZ through this type of online filing form. And we're going to talk with folks with CIVN, to talk with them about their series of free grant writing classes that they're doing also on Tuesdays. So a few more details here. So again, these are the 2 documents. We're going to focus on the form tonight, the 990 EZ that you see on the left. And when we want to highlight also that there is this online filing platform that you can use to enter your organization's information and to submit or to e-file your 990 EZ document here through this type of vendor. Sam, can you tell us more about the 990 EZ Part 1?
As soon as I can figure out how to turn my mic on. Part 1 deals with revenue expenses and changes in net assets. What that means is you have things of value, you have bills that you owe, and when you subtract the bills that you owe from the things of value that you have, which includes not just cash, but real property, which means buildings and land, equipment, furniture, automobiles or vans or trucks. When you take all of those things of value and you total them up, and then you deduct what you owe in terms of bills immediately and debt. Let's say you have a mortgage on your building, that's a debt. The net number, the number that you get after you subtract what you owe from what you have, that's your net assets. Fund balances specifically refers to the cash that you have in the bank after deducting certain bills. Contributions, gifts, grants, and similar amounts received. Contributions and gifts, you probably understand when someone gives you money or a security that's worth money. Those are contributions and gifts. When someone gives you furniture, a vehicle, a building, other equipment, those are also gifts. Those are called gifts in kind, though. Those are not gifts of cash. You would need to establish a value. What we do as legal aid is we send a form to someone when they contribute items to us, and we ask them to tell us what the value is. Now, this serves two purposes. One, it gives us at least a base number to work from. And two, when that person goes to the Internal Revenue Service and says, I'm deducting the vehicle that I donated to my favorite charity, and it's worth this dollar amount, if they show them a piece of paper that you sent them thanking them for the vehicle that they donated to you worth X number of dollars, then the donor can say, this is what it's worth based on the information I received from this organization. Then the IRS can come to you and say, what did you use to establish the value? That's not a question you want to have to answer. So it's better to thank people when they give you gifts in kind for the gifts that they gave you, naming what those items are or were, and not giving them a dollar amount that they would misconstrue to be the value of those items. Grants, generally, those are dollar amounts that you apply for. In any event, that's number one, and the information that you would be giving in number 1 through number 6. Gross income, 6B, gross income from fundraising events, which would not include the contributions discussed above. If you run a special event and you charge people an admission or you sell tickets, and in addition to that, let's say you have a silent auction, you generate revenue. Let's say you have a door prize drawing you sell tickets for, and then you pull a ticket at the end of the event to determine who the winner or winners are. That's considered gross amounts, gross income. And that's the number that the IRS is looking for in 6B. Then later on the form, 6C, as a matter of fact, direct expenses. And then you deduct direct expenses from the gross revenue, and you get 6D, which is the net income or loss from that particular event or those events. Gross sales of inventory, if you have things that you're selling, let's say you're selling t-shirts, or you're selling food, or you're selling items of furniture or clothing or tools or toys or anything, that's where you would list that. 7B is less of cost of goods sold. What did it cost you to acquire those goods that you sold? That's where you would put that amount. And then 7C is you deduct the cost of goods sold, 7B, from 7A, which is gross sales, and you get the gross profit or loss from the sales of inventory. Any other revenue would be listed in 8, and then number 9, you would total all of those lines up to get your total revenue. Next, we have expenses. Basic expenses that most organizations face are salaries or other compensation or employee benefits, professional fees, or anything you would pay to independent contractors. Let's say you hire someone to design a website for you. You would list that amongst other costs in line 13. Occupancy, rent, utilities, and maintenance. If you own a building or you rent a building or an office and you pay utilities and you have other expenses, like you pay a janitorial service to clean the offices at night, you pay a lawn care service to take care of any grass that you have around your property, that's where you would list those expenses. Printing, publications, postage, and shipping. Anything that you have that would qualify as those expenses are listed under 15. Then any other expenses that you have, which you would describe on a form that the IRS calls Schedule O, is line 16. And then you would simply take, where are we here? The excess or deficit of the year, where you would take line 17 and subtract it from line 9, that would give you your net revenue. The net value of everything that you've received during the year. Then you list net assets or your fund balance at the beginning of the year, changes during the year, and then line 21 is your net assets or fund balance at the end of the year. And that's essentially that form. Here at the beginning of the year and then at the end of the year, you would list the amount for any cash savings or investment that you have. Then you would list the value of the building. Now, if you own a building, you hopefully also have an accountant who will tell you what the amount of depreciation that you would take on the value of the building. Let's say you bought the building for $5 million. During the year, there is a certain amount of that value that is depreciated. So at the end of the year, the asset is worth a little less. Let's say your depreciation is $100,000. So at the end of the year, your building is worth $4,900,000. You would add those numbers together along with any other assets that you have, such as vehicles, furniture, supplies, items like that, which you again would list on Schedule O, so that you have a total asset amount. Then you would deduct total liabilities, both at the beginning and the end of the year. And then line 27 would give you the net asset and fund balance, so that line 27 of column B would agree with line at the end of the year, would agree with line 21 on the previous page. And that would be your balance sheet.
Thank you, Sam. For a second. So thank you, Sam, for walking us through part 1 and part 2, which is kind of serves as a financial disclosure. If the disclosing kind of the expenses and revenue. Here, what we're looking at instead is a description of your programs, services, activity, kind of the programs that you provide, that your organization provides. And it's more of a public disclosure of information that you're using here to satisfy the IRS requirement, but also to tell your organization's story. What are the types of programs you operate? And then also to describe with detail, whatever details you have in terms of who are you serving? How many households or families are you serving? If you have programs that focus on children, then perhaps you can identify the number of children you're helping and describe the character of these programs, if they take place a few times a year, or just whatever detail you can. And in terms of organizing it, 28, 29, 30, there are these 3 sections that you can identify your top 3 largest programs in terms of dollar amount. But if you have more, such as additional programs or additional details per these programs, you have Schedule O, which is kind of a form, a section that you can write in more detail. And the reason to consider adding more detail is that it's not just IRS regulators that look at this document, but it's also donors, funders, potential board members. If you're working with banks and are talking with banks about potentially sponsoring your nonprofit organization, a way they can find out more details or to do their due diligence is to look up your organization's 990, and then you can get a pretty good picture about your current operations, your recent operations. So again, here you're looking to describe in the kind of larger left column, you're looking to describe in kind of descriptive language, in compelling language, who you're working with, which communities your programs are serving, and whatever information you can. And again, you have an open-ended place to report this information out on the Schedule O. And the far right column, expenses, you're describing also in detail what's the total kind of expenses per program activity. And again, Schedule O gives you a place where you can provide more details, including if you're an organization that's able to leverage in-kind resources, you can provide that kind of breakout information per program and activity. And that also shows donors, potential funders, and so on, how you as a community group are leveraging additional resources into the community. And then there's a place where you can total it. Now, here there's these details about did you make grants, including any foreign grants? And the reason they're asking this specific type of question is because 501c3s can be very small community-based organizations, but they can also be large foundations, right? Like the Ford Foundation, for example, might also be a 501c3, right? So they're making these types of grants, and so you're being asked to complete and complete the same type of reporting form that they are using. The next slide. If any of the participants want to describe any of their programs or services, or how you use language to identify your top programs or top priorities, how you've conducted that, what kind of information you've shared in this form to make it to leverage it as potentially as a grant writing or fundraising tool as well.
So this is Jonathan with Generation Uplift and Historic Rosedale Park Neighborhood Association. And one of the partnerships that we have is basically as a neighborhood association, we are basically our certification or our designation comes up under the city of Fort Worth. That's who we're actually registered with, but we are a 501c3 and we are a Texas nonprofit and a 501c3. So then our partnership came about with the school district and the community college, and just working with our elected officials. It started as first with just a community cleanup. It's a program that the city has that's, I guess, through another national nonprofit that has, state and local organizations. And here is Keep Fort Worth Beautiful, and they have the Cowtown cleanup. And so we just used that initiative that already had a framework to, we were registered with the city. We registered with that event, and the first time we actually were able to do it, we were able to actually get 100 volunteers to come out across the city because of the framework that they had set up. And so that's just something that we've continued in our 9 years that we do annually, whether it's that, 100 people or 4 people. This year we actually only had 4 people. It's been a pandemic, but we still got out there and did it. And so just being able to identify the spaces that we clean up, but kind of like you're saying, if 4 people clean up a space that serves 100 people, how do you document that? And so that's just the thing that I was, talking about. I actually had a conversation with our treasurer earlier today just about, best practices. And so we're looking to collect more vital statistics. I think that's something that I've heard in this meeting, that's the term that people may not refer to, that you may want to educate people on as well. That is neighborhood associations, smaller nonprofits. We do need to collect vital statistics on our memberships, and then that's how we, have that information about who we serve. So, thank you. I'm glad I was here today, and I'm thankful for this class.
Thank you for all of your involvement in the community. And I'm sure there's several people right now who could give a very succinct message or response to your question. Perhaps instead of us as a panel talking about it, maybe if there's another group out there who knows how you would quantify the service that was done to clean up whatever area, how would you keep track of that? Does anybody have an idea? Yes, go ahead, Rose.
I always take a volunteer sign-in sheet with me on every event. Can you hear me?
Yes, do you want to elaborate on that?
Yes, I just type up what type of event it is, the date, and so each volunteer sign in when they come, and when they leave, they write down the hours that they stayed.
And so how do you quantify
I
their?
put on that sheet $15 an hour.
Mhm.
So in the tax season, I get all my hours and times $15 an hour.
Right. Now, I know that that is not all the time, but I know that you have come to an average for the service that is being provided. And sometimes I know that in your case, the service that's being provided involves dismantling a huge greenhouse that was donated. So,
Yes.
so I know that throughout your process, I just want to make sure that people don't, in order to determine the amount, you look at what a person should be getting paid for this kind of work. And then that's how you quantify per sheet, so that maybe you did 3 fundraisers and did, I don't know, 5 outreaches, and on each time it was a different kind of work, so it was a different kind of amount of money that each hour that is being donated it's being quantified as.
Yes.
Okay. And so we do have templates for that. It's called an in-kind donation. So anytime that these people are donating of their time, they're giving you this, by signing their names, they're allowing you to quantify as if money had come in. Okay, so efile.form990.org is an IRS approved tax e-filing and mailing platform for nonprofits, 990 easy and 990s. Now this is I jumped in, I already have my account. I am going to skip the quick jump, and I'm going to focus today on Form 990 Easy. And if you click on this, another tab comes up, and Sam and Nancy today were discussing parts 1, parts 2, parts 3, and that's all that we were discussing: the revenue, expenses, net assets, your balance sheet, which is very important, and a statement of program service accomplishments. Everything else that we're not going to touch on, it's in another video. I think that this was a 3-part video, so we're trying to condense all of the information, but we literally went over all of these sections. This information that you're going to find here on this organization is a mock entity that I put together. And so this is our EIN, and it was for the tax year 2019, and I haven't updated it because I don't want to be taking up their space. But I've been using this as a teaching tool. Sorry, let me try to get this. So let's say we're going to be here in the 990, and we're going to go to the revenue. And this is where Sam was speaking about. If you'll notice these numbers on the left, they also correspond to, if you remember the last class that we did on helping you to put together your budget, your actual budget and your operating budget. This document basically has all these numbers on the left here, which correspond, just to make it simple, these numbers correspond to these numbers on your 990. So if you keep track, and we have that template available, we can email it to you. If you keep track of that information, you are able to figure out by the end of the year what the revenue was, what the program service revenue was, if anything, any kind of in-kind you can put in there. We've gone through this before in the other video, so we're not going to spend a lot of time, but just very briefly to say there are things like a car that you had to fix to sell it, and so that became your inventory, which when you sold, you get this amount. So keep track of every little asset. It's very, very important. I'm going to skip all of this because generally nonprofits that we're working with, aside from other revenue, you can actually put under number 8, you can include any in-kind services, and then really detail what it was that was done by whom, what the amount was. So it all can go on under other revenue, if that's what you choose to call it. So anyway, for the revenue that we have this 2019, it was $63,000, and so for our organization, okay, when you try to move forward, the system doesn't let you unless it's telling you we need this information. And so what it's telling me actually is that I can't go unless I put in this information, and I left it open just to show you that even if it's a 0 that's missing, it's not going to let you go. So I could skip the validation, or since I know what the problem was, I'm just going to say no, go forward to the next section. And so here, if you keep track of all of your expenses by the code that we're discussing, salaries, professional fees, independent contractors, any rent, occupancy, printing, and then most everything is going to be number 16, because most everything is going to be program, some kind of a program thing that is not employment or salary related or, other expense codes. So if you keep track of where your money is going by category at the end of the year, you'll be able to fill these things out, and it'll allow you to be less stressed, I promise. So once you begin to process these filings, these items in gray are filled, and so by the time you get here, you've been putting in all of this information, and then this is where the net assets and the fund balances sometimes don't get along, and it's a problem with the filing. This is your balance sheet. This is where everything that you have and own is looked at. So if I go forward, it's asking me, apparently our numbers match, because if there was a problem with our net assets and the fund balances from the previous year, it wouldn't allow us to go forward. So that's what you want when you're going through the form. If you have a problem, it'll say you can't pass unless you fix this, or you can pass for now, but you have to fix it later. So this is why I really like this software. So here, primary exempt purpose, we gotta let them know why are we tax exempt. And they generally, this is where you can really show off some other stuff that you're doing, just bullet points of things that you do that are your primary exempt purpose. Okay, so here I'm not going to get into the trustees or anything, but I am going to get to the signature section. So, I'm the clerk for the organization, and apparently I can actually sign this, but I won't because it's a mock thing. You can have a president or a treasurer be here as the signatory person, and then you can have another person that not necessarily got paid to do this, but is donating their time. And so that would also be in-kind that they're giving you. So I wouldn't put their name here. I would actually set them up as a non-signatory contributor to the filing. And we can get into this at some other time if anybody has any questions. So once you're done, oh, by the way, down here, reasonable cost for late filing. Once you begin filing your 990 EZ, the IRS is going to really be expecting that your NIC 990 won't be late. And if they find that you're late, they can penalize you and tax you, and it's not pretty. And so what you want to do is, if by chance something happened and the world was coming to a screeching halt and you needed to file late, you have to be sure that you ask for an extension. And then you explain what it was that caused you to be late and how you fix it so that it's not going to happen again. So that's where I want to leave it here. I'm going to ask if anybody has any questions, and then I'm going to open the floor. I do have some questions, particularly for one of our groups here today, but I'd like to really ask if there's anybody else who has any questions on any of this that I just spoke about before we move forward.
So Eliezer, at what stage do you start filing based on all the information we just received? Like, because Daughters has never filed a tax return.
Okay. Yeah, that is because your revenue is below the threshold. So you don't need to file this. The reason why you would want to file it is, let's say you want people to know, yeah, we might be small, but look at all the good that we're doing, and you speak about it in the what has it been that you have accomplished, right? So you come here, and I didn't get in here actually, but you come here and you partner maybe with some churches, you distributed meals in Fort Worth, whatever it was that you did, and this is how much it cost you. So it's a small amount, and it doesn't warrant being on the 990, but depending on what you do, and one of my favorite statements in anything that you're writing regarding your organization, you should always consider that it's all in the presentation. Just be sure that everything is typed up correctly and that you're saying what you're meaning to say. So short answer to that, if you can believe it, I would say it all depends on, if you're going to be stressed out because you want to do this filing and you really don't need to, I wouldn't do it. But I've seen situations in which organizations that don't need to file this have been asked for this form so that the other entity can see clearer into how this entity operates. So, it's a thing. If you can figure out a way to get it done internally, it's not that difficult. It's just time intensive because you need to keep track of the information, the materials. So other than that, I would say don't harm yourselves to get this done. Okay, I have let's see, question. Let me look at the
First, I think it's Alexandria has a question, and then after Alexandria, it will be Karen.
thank you. Oh, thank you. That's right, you're here. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay, hi, this is Alindra, and I have two questions actually.
Okay.
I heard when you said that, and we've been doing the 990, just the short form, the postcard.
Yes.
And so, and our status has changed. We have some property that we have purchased, and so we have some real asset. But we never have filed anything but the 990. But with the development that we're doing, it sounds like we need to change how we do it so we can show people what we're doing, because now we're investing in the community, buying up property to do a project.
So you have a question?
Yeah, we own property. So when we file, if we file the 990E, which we never filed, do we show as far as the asset? I mean,
I'm gonna throw that to Sam.
If you acquired an asset, you also acquired either the money to pay for it or the debt, the loan to pay for it. Either way, yes, you will have to list the value of the asset, which is the presumably building and land. And you'll also have to list the liability, which would be the loan, or the contributions, which gave you the cash to acquire the property.
It was donated. It was gifted, some of it.
So then under gifts, in that section that says gifts, one of those lines, you would decide where the property would, let me see here.
So let's go both ways. Okay.
So if it's a gift, then the gift was a contribution of the property. The value of the property, and if I were you, I would take the value that's listed in the appraisal district, unless you have an accountant that gives you a different number. You should still check what the appraisal district says it's worth. Where are we here? Okay. Contributions, gifts, grants, and similar amounts received. That's where that would go.
Oh, okay. Okay. I was thinking about if I needed to use the appraisal district, just what they said the market value was. Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome. Every time that, well, every donation that you receive, the more, the higher the value, which we're not discussing it right now. It's a $2 billion building, but the higher the value, the more documentation you should have that that proves what the value actually is. So I know that Rose has a really good story because of something that happened to her. Rose, can you tell us a little bit about the donation that you received and the in-kind for the greenhouse? I know it happened a little while back. Rose, are you here?
Yes, we had to get an appraisal. We had to get it appraised. So they gave us all the documents with the appraisal of the greenhouse. And the appraisal explains each item that's connected with the greenhouse and what the whole thing is worth total. And a professional did the appraisal for us. So we have that information as well.
So you have that information as well related to your tax documents and the value when you got it and all of that already, which you do need to have somebody that gives you that information. Over time, you're going to acquire things that are of value, that are assets. And nonprofits generally are too busy taking care of all this other stuff. And documenting assets is something that we generally don't do. Just I'll leave it at that for now.
The next question, Mrs. Karen Reese had a question after Ms. Lance.
Hey guys, thank you so much for allowing me to ask the question. I was wanting to know that platform that you can do the filing. Can you also do the 990 postcard, the 990N on there? And can you do the 990 PF?
No. You can do the 990 PF in this format, but if you're going to do a PF, that means that you're a private foundation and you should have funding to pay, so it won't be free. The 990N, they actually simplified it for this year, and only a person who's directly involved with the entity is actually able to now file. So the 990N, they simplified, and they're not asking probably half the questions they were asking before, the yes and no questions. So it's a lot simpler. Just the name of the entity, the EIN, the address. I don't recall if they asked for everyone's the board of directors information. Yes. So but simplified it a lot in 990N. You cannot. This platform is free. Once you get to the 990. The long form 990, they sort of like say, would you consider contributing a small donation, that kind of a thing. That's how this system works. And
can you file previous years on this system?
Yes, you're able to file previous years. And so I am looking for we did several of these classes with a lot more detail. We went into every single nook and cranny, which we can't do it every time. But we today wanted to make sure that we gave you, this is the biggest, the heart of the organization, right? This is the revenue on the expenses and what is it that you own. So this is what the IRS is really interested in knowing, and that's why we wanted to focus on this today. But there's one link that I'm promising myself that I'm going to put on the chat before I leave today, so that you can have more detailed on a 1 hour video. And we went into a lot of detail of the actual form and how to enter into the portal, and how to get into all of that. So yes, that's coming. Anybody else?
Eliezer, I think that Taniqua Williams has a question, but I think that when she answers ask her question, it will answer First Stop 6 Shape Up as well. So Taniqua, if you want to go ahead and ask your question, you can right now.
Hello, thank you for having me. I have just been trying to find out, since the videos are recorded, do we have access to go back to the videos so that we can take further note? Because we're moving at a fast pace and there's some things I want to kind of go over again.
Yes. Okay. So the short answer to that, yes. The little bit longer answer is we have been working to set the videos in a way where you get as much of the information and as little of, sometimes the wait, the delay, so that we account for the time that you're spending watching this. And so Rosetta and I have been working with these videos. We are beginning to get to the point where, okay, we're reaching our cadence, and we decided that the first video is going to be a video that started, it was probably about a year ago, but it was covering exactly what we were discussing here today, but in much more detail. So I do have that video already posted, and I'm going to put it on the chat at some point before I leave today. And so there's more videos that are coming. We just need to sit down and set them up. For instance, this one that we did today, we want to more quickly set them up so that you can not only have the really detailed 990 video that you've never seen before, but you can also have this as your reference going forward. So we're working to see how to best, within what's humanly possible, to provide quality information, quality videos for you. And so that's coming very soon, starting today.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. It's our pleasure. Okay. Anybody else has any other questions? Okay. I want to get to this slide here real quick. We have been working with our community, with groups such as yourselves, and one of the organizations that we've seen take the bull by the horn and just deal with a lot of different things with the community for community support and amazing growth is Commissary is Very Necessary. Commissary is Very Necessary has been with us since we were doing these classes face to face. And what endeared me to them is that once they learn something, they stick with it, and then they build on that, and they have been building. So what's happening is that our more regulatory-based classes are happening on the 2nd and on the 4th Tuesday of every month, so we're more regulatory. We've divided the 501c3 class into 5 segments. Today, of course, is the taxes, because we wanted to make sure that we get people ready. And so next week at 6 o'clock, Commissary is Very Necessary is going to be hosting free grant writing class, and I'm going to let, I don't know if Tania is here, but I thought I saw Marcus come in. If you'll take it from here, the floor is yours.
How y'all doing this evening? My name is Marcus X. Also, I'm president and founder of Commissaries Very Necessary, which is a nonprofit organization that has been doing the free grant writing class for almost 2 years now. We do it in conjunction. Tonight, legal aid. Next Tuesday, we'll be doing it, and vice versa, until our classes and their classes are over. Uh, we just really appreciate legal aid for all they've done for commissaries. Very necessary from the conception of our organization, and we have been a part of their classes for about 2 or 3 years now, and so we really enjoy what they bring to the table and what the resources that they provide to the community. Just with this meeting, you could see that some questions were answered about property and different things. And so both of these classes I feel are very necessary. We have Tamia Parker, who is the executive director of Commissaries Very Necessary. She does the free grant writing classes. You can go to the website at civn.org or commissariesverynecessary.org, and you can register for our free grant writing classes. It's totally free. At the end, you get a booklet, and we're going to be working with you on some grants. So I just appreciate Eliezer for mentioning us and for all y'all are doing for the community.
Commissary is Very Necessary is providing these classes. They're free. And one of the things that I wanted to make sure that everybody hears about this is they are live grants. So Tamia, she's on point. She will give you how it is, very easily to understand. And so she's able to provide you with information about a grant that you and your group might be able to internally apply for.
And before you leave today, could you please put your information in the chat so we can use that for our records?
Okay. Thank you.
I'll just add that the videos are very descriptive. So if you know, listening to it while you're working to prepare your 990 is easy as a useful strategy, you know, please consider listening in just to go over this. As the more times you go over it and refer back to your financial records to plug in, the better at preparing these forms you'll be. This is again the annual tax filing, and as a kind of practical matter, you know, the board has the fiduciary duty to make sure that this is complied with, that the document is prepared. If at all possible, the board has a chance to review it and adopt it beforehand, or at a minimum, at least you're sending it to the board before submitting it to the IRS. And this is a way to disclose not only to the IRS, but potential funders, potential partners, what your organization does. And so for that reason, you want to use it not just as a check the box compliance requirement, but also something that can help your nonprofit continue to develop, and including to share that information that you're doing with the community with a ideally an audience that includes funders.
Thank you, Nancy. And also, thank you all for giving us your email addresses in the chat. So we'll get all of that. And one thing that I think Marcus wanted us to mention, Marcus Russell wanted us to mention, just a reminder one more time that next Tuesday on Zoom, CIVN will be doing their fundraising class. And what time is that going to be, Marcus? You didn't put that in the chat. So is that 6 o'clock?
It's 6 o'clock.
Okay,
yes.
So that's the reminder for that.
So our community has the ability to have capacity building classes that are free on not only nonprofit management, but also grant writing. So this, you know, I took the horn because this doesn't happen everywhere. So I'm very excited to be able to have this, let's teach our community with, what we have. So I appreciate everyone's efforts and everybody's heart. One question that I had, I meant to ask, and I am sorry I'm doing it so late. Is Rose still here?
Yes.
Rose, I'm sorry. I meant to ask you specifically, but then we got into, the grandmother thing. The I know that you started working with the platform basically since last year, or was it the year before? But you've been working with it for at least 2 years at this point.
Yes.
And so, give us your experience.
Well, I'm no longer afraid to file the taxes because there's no way you can do anything wrong, because if you do anything wrong, it won't let you go to the next step. And then it highlights the thing that you need to go back and change. You just got to figure out what way you need to change it. It will never let you go move forward to the next step until it's corrected. So
And you
you
were
don't have to
able,
be afraid of it.
yeah, whenever we spoke, you had concrete questions. It wasn't, what do I do with this? It was, I have this. And so I, where am I going to go with it? Because you had specific questions. And so that sounded like very organized. It wasn't like I'm looking at the paperwork. I'm just listening to what you're saying, and it, and the system basically also guided you. So I know that,
Yeah.
that was a thing, but you were able to internally, and that is something to be celebrated. You are working with your board and to
Mm-hmm.
actively put together your taxes. You didn't have to pay anybody to get them done. You
Mm-hmm.
took our classes, you've been seeing our videos, you've been here since the very, very beginning. So
Yes, me and my vice president, we went through all the paperwork at first, all the receipts, and we put everything together. All that goes with in number 16, all that goes in number each 15. We did that before we started anything, and then we went back and figured and did the numbers and just put them in. And if anything was wrong, it wouldn't let us go forward until we corrected it.
excellent. Well, I just wanted to make sure that that was out there, because I know that last year you were stressing out over the.
Yes, I was panicking because you don't want to mess with the government. So I was afraid.
Well, thank you for your time, and thank you everyone for coming. We release you with our best wishes. We are grateful to be working with people who are concerned with others, are concerned that others get something better. You don't find that everywhere. And so to have such an amazing group of people, we're glad to have information that is useful and that's been effective. And for as long as the good Lord allows us to be on this planet, let's continue doing good. And
Yeah.
thank you for all that you do for others.
Thank you. And each workshop we have, I learn more and more for everybody, whether you're new or old. I learn more and I'm more confident.
Thank you, Rose.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank
Thank
you.
you, guys. Thank you. Good
Have
evening.
a blessed evening.
Thank you,
Good evening. Thank you.
Alexandra.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Tara.
Thank you much.
Thank you.
Have a blessed evening, everyone.
Thank you,
Thank
Rose.
you, Rose.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
This is the conclusion of this session intended to instill capacity into grassroots nonprofits. The nonprofit coaching team would like to thank you for your presence and participation. We look forward to sharing with you in our next class.